must be 10,000, 20? Does this mean Rand? Did he fail?
He traveled. Light filled him, and heat that should have burned, yet only warmed as if it took the chill of the grave from his bones. The strands thickened. I have to get away. Rand pulsed with the beating in the core, like the heartbeat of the world. It filled his being. Light filled his mind. Away! And Rand was no longer on the hilltop. He quivered with the light that suffused him. His mind would not work. Light and heat blinded it, stunned him with awe. He stood in a broad mountain pass, surrounded by jagged black peaks like the teeth of the Dark One. It was real. He was there. He felt the rocks under his boots, the icy breeze on his face. Battle surrounded him, or the tail end of battle. Armored men on armored horses, shining steel dusty now, slashed and stabbed at snarling Trollocs, wielding spiked axes and scythe-like swords. Some men fought afoot, their horses down, and barded horses galloped through the fight with empty saddles. Fades moved among them all, night-black cloaks hanging still, however their dark mounts galloped, and wherever their light-eating swords swung, men died. Sound beat at Rand, beat at him, and bounced from the strangeness that had him by the throat. The clash of steel against steel, the panting and grunting of men and Trollocs striving, the screams of men and Trollocs dying. Over the din, banners waved in dust-filled air. The Black Hawk of Faldara, the White Heart of Shinar, others, and Trolloc banners. Yet it was indeed the tail end. Pausing. None seemed to notice Rand as they paid a few last strokes and broke away, galloping or running in a stagger to the ends of the pass. Rand found himself facing the end of the pass where the humans were reforming, pennants stirring beneath gleaming lance points. Wounded men wavered in their saddles. Riderless horses reared and galloped. Plainly they could not stand another meeting, yet just as plainly they readied themselves for one final charge. Some of them saw him now. Men stood in their stirrups to point at him. Their shouts came to him as tiny piping. Staggering, he turned. The forces of the Dark One filled the other end of the pass, bristling black pikes and spear points swelling up onto mountain slopes made blacker still by the great mass of Trollocs that dwarfed the army of Shinar. Fades in hundreds rode across the front of the horde, the fierce, muzzled faces of Trollocs turning away in fear as they passed, huge bodies pulling back to make way. Overhead, Drag-Kar wheeled on leathery pinions, shrieks challenging the wind. Halfmen saw him now too, pointed, and Drag-Kar spun and dove. 2, 3, 6 of them, crying shrilly as they plummeted toward him. He stared at them. Heat filled him, the burning heat of the touched sun. He could see the Drag-Kar clearly, soulless eyes in pale men's faces on winged bodies that had nothing of humanity about them. Crackling heat. From the clear sky, lightning. Each bolt crisp and sharp, searing his eyes, each bolt striking a winged black shape. Hunting cries became shrieks of death, and charred forms fell to leave the sky clean again. The heat. the terrible heat of the light. He fell to his knees. He thought he could hear his tears sizzling on his cheeks. No! He clutched at tufts of wiry grass for some hold on reality. The grass burst in flame. Please! No! The wind rose with his voice, howled with his voice, roared with his voice down the pass, whipping the flames to a wall of fire that sped away from him and toward the Trolloc host faster than a horse could run. Fire burned into the Trollocs, and the mountains trembled with their screams almost as loud as the wind and his voice. He beat at the ground with his fist, and the earth tolled like a gong. He bruised his hands on stony soil, and the earth trembled. Ripples ran through the ground ahead of him in ever-rising waves of dirt and rock towering over Trollocs and Fades, breaking over them as the mountains shattered under their hooved feet. A boiling mass of flesh and rubble churned across the Trolloc army. What was left standing was still a mighty host, but now no more than twice the human army in numbers, and milling in fright and confusion. The wind died. The screams died. The earth was still. Dust and smoke swirled back down the path to surround him.
What happened?
Tell me everything.